Hey guys, welcome back to another predictions video on the channel. Today I'll be going through my round 17 tips and predictions, and also going through what occurred in round 16. Now quickly before we get started, I just want to do, of course I was sick last round, so yeah, just in case you guys were wondering why this prediction video is coming out a day late, that is the reason why, and it won't happen again. Swear, I'm sorry, but it won't happen again. Alright, let's get straight into it. Round 16, it was an interesting round. Brisbane versus Richmond obviously was the first game, and it ended off in a pretty big smashing. I was pretty happy with the tip of Brisbane, so you definitely take that. And then obviously the draw, Sydney versus Geelong grand final rematch ended up as a draw. Now, I did tip Geelong to win, and obviously we all know Sydney should have won the game. So, yeah, in the end, I'll take the correct tip in the end, being a draw, but Sydney should have won, so you can technically count that as a loss. Well, I am, at least. I was pretty happy with the tip of the Dogs in a 50-50 game. Adelaide obviously got the job done over North Melbourne. Pretty happy with that. Collingwood dominated the Suns. It was ridiculous, really. Again, very happy with that. And unfortunately, this is where the video starts to go bad, because I really struggled from here on. I've got every single tip correct, and then this is where it turns. I tipped Essendon in an upset, and Port obviously got the job done after the siren in one of the games of the season. And then in Hawthorn versus Carlton, I unfortunately tipped Hawthorn at a bit of an upset, and Carlton, well, they look like they were back to their best with a good win. And again, I went Melbourne. I had a feeling GWS were going to win, and they did, which disappoints me, because I was backing in the D's, and they let me down there, and obviously tipped the Saints, and obviously got that one correct. You'd be pretty bad to lose to West Coast. So 6 out of 9, basically should be 5 if you disinclude the draw. It's not bad, but it's certainly not ideal. Now I'll go for my big calls. Yeah, again, a bit shaky this week, but definitely a lot better than the previous, seeming I got 0. But yeah, my prediction for Richmond versus Brisbane was both teams kick 80 plus points, and that was just a shocking one, because Richmond barely struggled to score at all for the whole game. In Sydney versus Geelong, I actually predicted this pretty much spot on, really. Sydney led for 55% of the match. They led for a good chunk of that game, that's for sure. I'm not entirely too sure how long it was, but it was certainly a long time. Now, Freo versus Bulldogs, I predicted the Dogs to come from behind at three-quarter time and win the game, but they were in front at three-quarter time by a couple goals. So, yeah, unfortunately got that one wrong. And then in North Melbourne versus Adelaide, I predicted Tex to kick 6 or more goals, and he kicked 3, but it was really inaccurate, so I was pretty disappointed with Tex's day. Now, this one, I was absolutely unbelievably shocked how close I got to it. I predicted Nick Dacos and Josh Dacos to combine for 70 disposals and 3 or more goals, and they combined for 63 disposals and a goal, which is a really good effort. Pretty happy with that. And then in Essendon v Port, I predicted Nick Martin to have 30 more disposals, and he kind of struggled on the wing in the wet and ranked up, I think it was 24. So, yeah, not the best there. And then we'll move on to Sunday's big calls. These were all pretty poor. One of them was alright, actually, I guess. I predicted Hawthorn to kick the first 3 goals of the game, and this is so bad. They didn't even score in the second half, the first half. Sorry, they didn't even kick a goal. Unbelievable. And then GWS versus Melbourne, I predicted GWS to lead at any break, and that was actually obviously true, because they won the game, so I'm very happy with that. And I think they were leading at three-quarter time too, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, very happy with that. And in West Coast versus St Kilda, I predicted the Saints to kick 10 first half goals, and they did kick 10 for the game, but yeah, that was just unbelievably shocking. So yeah, I got 2 out of 9 for the big calls. Not amazing, that's for sure, but hopefully I can get a few more this week. So yeah, round 17, it's going to be a big round, and no better way to start it off with a Thursday night ripper. It's going to be a big game, that's for sure. Richmond versus Sydney. Both teams have to win. It's no excuses now. Sydney, they're starting to get their defence back. They're starting to get their forwards back. It should be Buddy's last performance at the MCG, realistically, seeming they won't really make finals. Well, it's almost impossible now for them. They have to win. The loser of this team would be officially ruled out of finals. The winner keeps their chances alive by slim chance, but they need the top 8 teams or some of the teams above them to start losing, which is unlikely. Yeah, Buddy's back for the Swans, you'd think, so they'll definitely feel a lot more confident in their forward line. They need to have some goal kicking addressed, though, because it cost them the game against Geelong, really. Simple 4 points dropped. I mean, I suppose 2 points in the end wasn't bad, but they needed the 4 to stay in the hunt. Now they just have to keep winning. And just like Richmond as well, that was a shocking performance up at the Gabba. They have got to respond from that. Dusty back, Prestia back. 2 debutants announced as well, and Jacob Bauer and I think it was Sam Banks, I believe. So, yeah, expecting some nice things from Richmond. They do have Jaden Shaw out, though, for this game with a bit of a hamstring, out for a month, I believe. I think I'm going to go Richmond. It's a 50-50 game. I am going to go Richmond, though, by 7 points. Mainly because it's at the MCG, and my big call, both teams score combined of 160 points or less. I don't think this will be high scoring. Both teams, they struggled to score last week. I reckon that will continue this week. Now, Western Bulldogs versus Collingwood. Stay tuned for a vlog for this game. I am going to this game now. Managed to get tickets. They're not great tickets, but at least they're tickets. Collingwood fans are just absolutely flogging to games at the moment. It is ridiculous. This one was sold out immediately. Very hard to get tickets. But yeah, it should be an interesting game. Obviously at Marvel, we don't play well at Marvel, and the Dogs have been in some decent form as well, and we don't seem to play that well against them in recent times. Look, I'm pretty confident though, even though Brody Mychek and Braden Maynard have both been ruled out. When you look at our VFL side, there's not a lot of options to replace Mychek. The main one is probably Ash Johnson, who didn't even play last week at any level. So, yeah, definitely concerning for our forward line. But the Dogs' defence will be boosted as well by Ed Richards' return, you would think. He's ahead of schedule, and he should make his return to the Dogs' defence, which certainly does need to be lifted up. But they're in some decent form, the Dogs. They were solid last week against Freo. When the game it really mattered, their midfield was superb, especially in that last quarter. Bailey Smith, Liberatore, McRae, Bonampally, Trelaws, the usuals doing the job in the midfield for the Dogs. And I reckon this one will be really close. We were really good last week, and we've been good. So I reckon we can actually pinch a win here. I reckon I would have gone the Dogs if I wasn't a Pies fan. And maybe even if I wasn't going to this game, but just because I'm going to a game, I always seem to go to games where I lose, but I want it to be different this time. I want to go to a game where we actually win a game. I want it to be an entertaining, great experience. Pies by 7 points, and my big call, Moore has 15 or more marks for the game because, he's my favourite player. Why not? I'm going to the game. I don't know. Why not? And then I'm looking forward to this one, and it's kind of weird why. Saturday afternoon footy, the kick-off the Saturday, Brisbane versus West Coast. It certainly will be an interesting game because I'm excited to see how much points Brisbane can win this game. I reckon they could win this. What Sydney did, West Coast is shocking away. Oscar Allen isn't great away from Optus Stadium. So it's going to be really difficult for West Coast to score. Their defence is under all sorts of pressure. Though Barras was good against the Saints. He was good. But apart from that, their defence is under all sorts of pressure. Their young kids really stepped up against the Saints. And honestly, for them, I reckon they'll take that as a win, really, the way they're going at the moment. And yeah, Brisbane, they've been superb up at the Gabba. They just don't lose there. And they're obviously not going to lose this. And they should be winning this by 100 plus if they want to prove that they're a top 4 side. Even top 2 is a possibility if I can keep winning. They'll get a massive percentage boost in my opinion. And I'll tip them to win by 129 points in one of the biggest wins of the season. And my big call, Daniher and Cameron combined for 12 or more goals. And also on the Saturday, it's GWS versus Hawthorn. Sorry. It'll be an interesting game at Giant Stadium, that's for sure. Hawthorn haven't played there in a bit, and GWS always seem to play really, really well there. They were really good last week in Alice Springs. I was actually really impressed in the Giants, the way their game plan's going about at the moment. Adam Kingsley, they're just doing some great things under him at the moment, and definitely a final smoky, that's for sure. And if they could get in, who knows, they could even pinch a few upsets. Like, I'm actually bullish on the Giants now. I actually think they can make the finals if they keep on winning. Toby Greene, he's just in sublime form. Their forward line as well got them over the line with pressure last week in the D's and sloppiness, and Josh Kelly was the hero with the match winner. And yeah, Hawthorn had a really disappointing, last couple weeks really. They were shocking against Gold Coast, and another poor performance against Carlton, where their first half was absolutely atrocious. They picked it up a bit in the second half, but still, they've got a lot of work to do. And Sam Mitchell's pretty embarrassed at the moment. He's just flat as a doorknob, and the Hawks just need to find something at the moment. I'm going to have to go the Giants in this one, comfortably as well, by 35 points. My big call, Toby Greene kicks 3 or more goals. He's just in superb form. And yeah, this one is certainly going to be an interesting one. Channel 7 game, the Saints and Melbourne at Marvel Stadium. It'll be an interesting one, this one. I'm actually quite interested to see how this one goes. It's at Marvel Stadium, of course, so it does favour the Saints. The Dees are in some shocking form, but so are the Saints. We were all expecting them to get a big percentage boosting and momentum lifting performance against West Coast, but they were just absolutely shocking, really, for most of it. Ross Lyon was flat after the game. Brought out a bit of cuddly Ross, but still, yeah, it was just a bit shocking. I had to say, and yeah, look, they're in some pretty poor form, the Saints, and the D's, they are as well. Like, they've definitely got to respond. Obviously, they're going to work at their goal kicking. Clary Oliver could be back for this game, which is massive for them. It could give them a shot at top 4 still, the D's, but at the moment, they're not playing like a top 4 side. They don't deserve it. They were shocking in the wet last week. Bailey Fritsch is now out for the rest of the home and away season, I believe. He's such a good player for them in their forward line. He just doesn't miss. And with a forward line that's just missing everything and just not looking that great on paper. Well, on paper, it looks good. That's the thing. It just isn't executing at the moment, and they've got to fix it up. Otherwise, you never know. They could make a bold move and even sack their coach. Like, they've got to fix up their forward line. It's that simple. It's like one of the most simple things in footy. You don't kick straight, you stuff it up, and it's going to cost the D's possibly a top 4 position at the moment, the way they're going. And the Saints, they don't even look like they're going to make finals, so both teams don't really deserve my tip, but I'll probably have to go Melbourne in this one. In a thriller, though, by 18 points. And my big call, there are 7 or more lead changes in a good, low-scoring, close game. And the other Saturday night game is Port Adelaide versus Gold Coast Suns at Adelaide Oval. We all know what Port are doing at the moment. They're basically doing the Collingwood of last year, really. Most people don't recognise how good Port have been this season. Lots of people, recognised us for last year for being the lucky team. But it's not luck the way you win these games. And Dan Houston, he's just having an amazing season. Definitely All-Australian. He's probably a lock now. You'd almost say an All-Australian at the moment. He's playing some really good footy. He was clearly best on, even before he had that shot for goal and absolutely flushed it. I knew he was going to kick it as well. As soon as he got the footy, I knew that he would kick the goal. Ken Hinkley's just fantastic. He hasn't lost a game since coaching on the bench. Being around the players, getting more energy into them. It's just fantastic to watch Port at the moment. They've got crazy momentum. They could do so many good things for many years to come even. And the good thing about them is they've still got a great young list. Now, Gold Coast, they do have a great young list, but it's just not executing. And they don't have any momentum whatsoever. And Stewie Dew, well, he's just got to find momentum at the moment because, his job is on the line. You have to say it. Their chairman has backed him in to be coach, and after a tough little period, since Darwin, they've been pretty atrocious, the Suns. But, you just got to back him in. Dimmer wanting to come back to coaching. People saying that he might be going to the Suns, and obviously they're not too happy about all the rumours about it. But I still think Port should win this game pretty comfortably at home by 47 points. My big call, Port kick 5 last quarter goals. Now, for the first of the Sunday games, we got Geelong versus North Melbourne down at the Cattery. And this one does not look like a good matchup on paper, but I actually reckon it could be a close game. You never know. North have been, searching for a bit of a win now for, 13 weeks now, and they just haven't found one. And it gets pretty frustrating when, I guess it's good that they've got Alistair Clarkson back, but it gets a little bit frustrating when you're actually playing good footy but not banking in results. And we all know they probably should have won 1 or 2 of those games, but maybe they've just forgotten how to win. Lots of people are just saying at the moment, they've forgotten how to win. They really need to pick it up and stuff like that, but they're doing a really good job. They've actually been really good, in my opinion, for their, first season under the rebuild, under Clarko. It's actually going alright when you think about it. It's just they haven't won any games, and obviously it's going to be one of the hardest trips in football to go down and beat the Cats in the Cattery, especially seeing Jeremy Cameron is back. He's been out of form for a good couple months now, hasn't done much at all recently, and he's due for a big game, you feel, and Geelong are due for a big game. Even though I do see North challenging them, I still think Geelong can win it comfortably in the end by 37 points. But my big call, North win the clearences by 5 or more. They're actually a good stoppage team, the Roos, and I actually reckon they'll win this stat. And we also got Essendon versus Adelaide on the Channel 7 game, and this is going to be one of the games, probably going to say it now, game of the round, I reckon. It's going to be high scoring. We've got 2 pretty good forward lines. We know Essendon's hasn't really fired of late, but, they're under a lot of pressure. You got to expect big things from their forward line, and, Adelaide have been really, really good this season, their forward line. Their defence, though, is their focus at the moment, and it's getting pretty low in terms of stocks, big defender stocks, because they've lost Jordan Butts now to concussion, to already add to Duday being out, and I also believe Nick Murray is out. I'm not 100% sure. No, I think Murray's the only one back there at the moment, so yeah, they need some support for him. They're talking about giving a debut to potentially Mark Keane, the Irishman and former Collingwood player. Not a fan of him, obviously, seeming he left, but not much you can do about that now. But yeah, he's been a fairly decent player for them in the reserves, and he might come in and do a bit of a job on Sammy Wiedemann in this game. They've also might be talking about a debut to this Borlees guy. I've never heard of him. But yeah, they just need some clarity in defence at the moment. The Crows, they're going to go in fairly, young in this defence, in this game, their defence. But yeah, their midfield and forward lines has been fantastic at the moment. Sure, their defence hasn't been superb, conceding 70 points to North, but at the moment they've just got injuries in there. Their forward line and midfield will just bank it in and bank in some solid results as well. They've been fairly good this year, the Crows, and Essendon, obviously heartbreaking, losing after the siren. It's always heartbreaking, but they'll bounce back in my opinion. They probably should have won the game. I tipped them to win and they lost, which was frustrating, but I think they will win this game by 9 points, and my big call, both teams score over 180 points in a high-scoring game. Now, the final game of the round is Freo versus Carlton, which is a massive contest in terms of finals at Optus Stadium. Now, Freo have to keep winning now. It's simple. They just have to win most of their games now. So, they have to win this. Otherwise, finals is probably over for them. And it's the exact same for Carlton. So, I'm expecting a good, solid contest between these two teams. They both need to win. And they've been fairly good this year at times, and Carlton have been good recently, which, they've got momentum if they've got crazy momentum, I mean, they haven't beaten anyone good. This would definitely be proof to see where they are at the moment, Carlton. But if they do have crazy momentum, they will beat the Dockers. But just because it is at home, you got to go safe. I don't want to go the upset with Carlton. They don't really deserve my tip this year. They've been so frustrating to watch as a whole, even though they're playing good footy. You know, Adam Chera was clearly best on last week, and I'm going to go freo by 15. And my big call, Jai Amiss, he's having a superb season. He's up there in the rising star. Kicks 4 more goals. You know, I did put this in before Jacob Riedering got off at the tribunal, because I thought he was going to get suspended, and I didn't really know if Carlton had another big defender that could play on Amiss, so that's why I put that in. But now I've heard that he is playing, I might want to change that. But, oh well, now I didn't get time before the video to read it. I was in a bit of a rush to get this out. Obviously, I probably should have gotten this out quite some time ago. And yeah, I'm sorry about that, but I hope you guys enjoyed the tipping video. Stay tuned for my tipping video next week and my vlog and review for the Collingwood v Bulldogs game.